Lab right here in our area has identified a new drug that is killing people across the country.
It's the most deadly drug you've probably never heard of.
A synthetic opioid so potent that this makes fentanyl look weak.
It's 20 times more powerful than fentanyl.
A new so-called Frankenstein opioid that's on the streets now. Experts say it's 40 times more potent and dangerous than fentanyl and can kill people who ingest just one dose.
Researchers say that many people think that they are taking heroin or fentanyl, but this drug is more potent.
It's up to 40 times stronger than fentanyl, and they may be added to street drugs without a user even knowing.
Nitazenes are a class of opioids now found in pills and powder sold on the street. And while Narcan can help reverse an overdose, it may take much more.
With the rise of synthetic opioids flooding the drug market, seemingly new research chemicals popping up every day, it's really easy to become desensitized and confused with everything going on. But one specific class of opioids, called nitazenes, pose a particularly scary threat to a lot of people who might not be prepared for it. We're seeing a lot more overdoses across places like Europe, and it seems like nitazenes are playing a big part in that. What a lot of people don't know is that a bunch of these synthetic opioids go all the way back to the 50s, when they were trying to find a substance with the pain-relieving properties of opiates like morphine and heroin without the things like the addiction risk. Through this research is where we first discovered drugs such as fentanyl and nitazenes. But what made nitazenes unique during those tests was that they were just too potent and dangerous to be useful, so they kind of sidelined them and knocked as just another failed medicine. But now that we're in 2025, reports of nitazene-related deaths are popping up everywhere, from here in the United States to all the way in Australia and Europe. So where did it come from? Why are we seeing this substance in the illegal market 7 decades later? Well, for the past decade, the U.S. has been dealing with the so-called third wave of the opioid crisis, driven by fentanyl, which is a drug that needs just no introduction by now. But this fentanyl was primarily made in China, until the Chinese government banned all production of fentanyl and related chemicals in 2019. What this did is it pushed the main source of fentanyl production from China to Mexican cartels, leaving these labs in China searching for just another product to replace it. By the next year, some nitazenes started being sold legally as research chemicals, some of which, such as etonitazene, are up to 1,500 times more potent than morphine. To put that into perspective, fentanyl is only 100 times more potent than morphine. This isn't to downplay the strength of fentanyl, but to show you kind of what we're dealing with. The one that's been showing up the most is etonitazene, but there are dozens of these drugs that vary in potency. But the most common ones have been far stronger than things like fentanyl. The U.S. has started to see glimpses of the damage these drugs can do, with overdoses popping up everywhere, with even a handful of deaths in my city this past year. That being said, we haven't been regularly testing for these drugs, so we don't really know how bad the problem is. Nitazenes have been particularly scary for Europeans, since Europe hasn't really dealt with a synthetic opioid problem before. Aside from small pockets in places like Estonia, Europe hasn't really seen things like recreational fentanyl use that we regularly see in the US, and it might be really just unprepared for what's ahead of them. But why is this such a problem now when Europe previously dodged a fentanyl crisis? Well, the answer boils down to the supply of good old-fashioned Afghan heroin. See, since the 90s, Afghanistan has been the world's main supplier of opioids. And even up until 2021, heroin produced in Afghanistan has made up over 95% of the European market. Now, this changed in 2022 when the Taliban outlawed opium production, and this reduced the poppy harvest by over 90%, significantly raising the price of heroin all over Europe. This one dealer started to protect their profit by cutting the remaining heroin with these cheap, easy-to-source nitazenes coming out of China, leading to hundreds of overdoses yearly in the UK alone, with an ever-growing death toll that spans across the continent. With all that being said, this is the scariest time to be a drug user. This stuff isn't sticking to the heroin supply. It's been found in the benzos, other opioids, fake scripts, fucking everything. It's even been found in a fake cart in the UK. So even if you're not American and you talk about, not having a lot of the problems that we've been having over the past decade, it's starting to become really scary for just everybody. And even if you don't use drugs or think anyone around you uses drugs, almost 1 in every 5 Americans have used an illicit substance in the past month. So even if you don't know it, it will affect you, and it does affect you too. So what can you do? Well, no matter who you are, just have Narcan around. Narcan reacts to Nitazenes the same way as any other opioid. The problem we're seeing is that it's been taking just multiple doses of Narcan to help someone. So if you can have multiple of them, a lot of places like my college and places like public health departments and stuff like that give out Narcan for free. So there's really no reason to not have some. Just do your own research and find out where you can get some around you and keep it on hand. And if you do use drugs, test them. And if you know somebody who's a drug user, urge them to test their drugs. You can find reagent test kits online. You can also find test strips for things like fentanyl, xylazine, nitazenes, all that shit. Some of my favorite companies for stuff like this is Grassroots Harm Reduction, Bunk Police, and Safe Dance. I think Bunk Police are the only ones out of those 3 who have nitazene test strips, but I'm not sure. I'll leave links for everything in the description, all my sources and everything. All that being said, stay safe, keep each other safe. Have a good day.